Wherever you are in the world, welcome on this Saturday to the States, to the United States, the land of the free and hopefully the land in which limitless drama can be conveyed. The Zoom Racing League X Division in its second season has been a whirlwind of drama and epicness, but on its final dance of its second season instalment, we stare upon the sensation of our drivers in this racing division, none more so than Dublin, our champion, who has wrapped up the title even before the final race. But in this sprint format here in COTA for the US Grand Prix, we have plenty of action to be installed. So then, we are currently within the 18-minute qualifying session. We will then be heading off towards a sprint and then the US Grand Prix. It is going to be an action-packed event, and make sure you are here until the very last moment. So then we have drivers out on track, pushing their cars, finding the limits on this COTA track. And we are currently following the progress then of Cushy in the Ferrari at his home event. Many of these drivers racing at their home event here in Austin, Texas. And Cushy is one of them in the prancing horse then down the long DRS straight between turns 11 and 12. It seems like he's getting a bit of a healthy slipstream from his Ferrari teammate ahead, Ferrari teammate of Leo Kreitis, who pulls out to allow Cushy through, going into the apex of turn 12, meaning that he will not be disturbed in the dirty air of his teammates. But Cushy into the third and final sector now through this tight turns 13, 14 and 15 sequence on towards turns 16, 17 and 18. A mimic, an imitation of Turkey's awesome turn 8 complex. And Cushy has tackled that, and as he rounds the final corner, opens DRS, he climbs to the top 5. So remember then that this will set the grid, this qualifying session will set the grid for the sprint event. And we will have a sprint to be enjoyed before we head on to the Grand Prix itself. So we now ride on board then with the Shumskrate in the Aston Martin. The green machine glittering under the sun here in the US, reaching the end of the straight, seemingly quite cautious on the brakes, and that's because the Shumskrate isn't actually on a lap. CVTX Mask will not be registering a lap time on this attempt. He has exceeded track limits somewhere, which of course means that the lap time has been invalidated, as such as the strict track limits enforcements are on this game in this division. So any perceptible error will be punished profoundly. So the drivers will want to stay within the limits, and at the same time they will wish to explore them. So we have many drivers now in the pits. We have Technic Speedy in the AlphaTauri now on an outlap. He currently lies in P4. And as such, AlphaTauri lock out the second row provisionally. It must be said, at a track where they went really, really well in 2015, securing 4th place with Max Verstappen in 2016, securing a points finish with Carlos Sainz in 2017, Daniil Kvyat scoring points for Toro Rosso. And then we have in 2018 as well, Brendan Hartley scoring points for the Toro Rosso outfit. Of course, the team has been rebranded as AlphaTauri now, but with its origins that even stems back as far as Minardi. This team has been cradled in underdog optimism, and they have delivered it ever since. We can cast our minds back to Sebastian Vettel's success around Monza in 2008 and Pierre Gasly's triumph on that very same track. This is a team that has delivered when the odds are stacked against them, and on US soil, could that be the case once more tonight? But Technic Speedy currently in P4, over half a second behind Dublin's pace-setting pole time. But the AlphaTauri across the start-finish line now to start Another attempt in qualifying around the US Grand Prix. Heading on into turn 1, uphill. That allows the drivers to brake a lot later, but you want to get on the power as early as possible off of the exit of turn 1 before you head on towards turn 2 and this epic complex. Sheer ferocity as the AlphaTauri swings into each and every one of these apexes and improves by half a second through the first third of the lap. Could rigor be rewarded on this attempt for the AlphaTauri? We have Dublin now starting a lap as well. So Technic Speedy then off the exit of turn 11, planting down the power. The rear end complying with DRS wide open. He will look to reach speeds of over 200 miles per hour. He's creeping towards it. His teammate Fitzdickwell ahead, getting out of the way. So Technic Speedy then into the third and final sector, and this is a mammoth improvement. This is a mammoth lap for the AlphaTauri. He shows his hand with speed and precision. Will it be registered like that on the leaderboard? Coming through turns 16, 17 and 18. 2 more corners to tackle then for the AlphaTauri. He is closing in on provisional pole. 2 blistering sectors have started him off well, but as he puts down the power off of the final corner, that is truly stellar from Technic Speedy. He opens the gates to supremacy and dethrones Dublin by half a second. How does the Red Bull driver respond? He improves by over a quarter of a second through the first 2 sectors, but is this response strong enough to eclipse the AlphaTauri once more? Through the 20th and final corner of this track for Dublin, can he steal back pole? No, he can't. By just shy of 0.2 of a second, this is raging into one fierce battle. The champion wants to end the season on a high. Technic Speedy looks to prize the possession of first off him. And in this qualifying session, he is proving a barrier to Dublin's pursuit of victory on Texas soil, as Duncan now in the Alpine improves to 3rd place, displacing his teammates. AlphaTauri locking out the second row provisionally. And now we have Fitzdickwell with his teammates on provisional pole. The AlphaTauri isn't improving through the first 2/3 of the lap, as Duncan bringing out the yellow flags as he goes rather slowly. Drabaspor looks like he may be on a lap. I think he's just improved though to P6. So Fitzdickwell with just a few more corners to tackle, and he's exceeded track limits. That's going to cost him. So we have Leo Kreitis now in the Ferrari, currently lying on the 4th row. Seems like he's not able to find an improvement through the first sector. We now have Big Mama Frank in the Red Bull, heading down this long DRS straight, heading towards turn 12, where we have seen moves for the race lead in recent years. Lewis Hamilton on Nico Rosberg in 2014, Lewis Hamilton on Sebastian Vettel in 2017, and Valtteri Bottas taking the lead from Lewis Hamilton in 2019. Everywhere you look, there is an opportunity for an overtake. This is a truly delightful track and a pure thrill for the drivers to tackle. It will be proven in real life as Formula One heads to this very track next week, but our Zoom Racing League drivers are giving it their all. Big Mama Frank then showing noticeable improvement through the first 2/3 of the lap, and he climbs to the front row. A scorching time there for the Red Bull. He outqualifies his teammates for the moment, and he sits within 0.2 of pole. Big Mama Frank, that was a big mama. That was a no, don't do that, Ben. But that was a truly epic attempt. Out of absolutely nowhere, this is a name to be considered and reckoned for success. In the season-closing US Grand Prix, we have yet another challenger. Our attention now turns to Logan in the Haas, racing at the team's home race. So, what can What can Logan do then? Can he bring success for Haas on their home turf? We will see. He runs inside the top 10, only just. He lies P9, but on this attempt, what can he explore in terms of the leaderboard? Down the start, finish straight into turn 1. Uphill, like I said. We ride on board then with the Haas into turn 2. Comfortably flat in these modern Formula 1 cars, but now into this imitation of the Maggots and Beckett sequence around Silverstone and Logan. Before he even started to tackle it, exceeded track limits. And this attempt will be erased, and promptly as well. Exceeding track limits meaning this lap time will not be registered, and the Haas, if he wants to improve, well, will have to come into the pits on this lap, change tyres and hope he reaches the checkers flag in time to start one final attempt. But with approximately 3 minutes left of this session, we have many drivers heading out onto the track. This is going to be a virtuous end to an extremely engrossing qualifying session. Technic Speedy on pole by less than 0.2 of a second. The top 3 separated by less than 0.2 of a second. We have tight margins deciding so much. These tight margins will be crowned by some and despised by others. But who is going to grip the moment? Dublin nearing the start of his final attempt. Big Mama Frank, I don't know if he's going to be heading out on track in time. It seems like he's running through the pit lane now, so he may have one final attempt in the dying stages of qualifying. But it is his teammate, the champion, who bathes in glory, who has it to do. He lies P3 behind his teammates, behind Technic Speedy. What can he do? Can he show his hands? Can he show his supremacy around this track? We will see. Dublin turning out of the first sector, improving by 4/100ths. So an improvement is found, but it's not the quickest we have seen through the first third of the lap. On towards turn 11, braking imperative, the apex critical, the exit absolutely essential to get a good one, to maximise your speed down this long back straight. Dublin is going to be impulsing his Red Bull car to rage beyond this straight and into turn 12. A hint of a lock up there in the Red Bull through the middle sector, though. It's not an improvement for the Red Bull. Does he have enough in his tyres, in his ability through the final sector to steal pole position from Technic Speedy's grasp? Through turns 16, 17 and 18. With a sprint ahead, with a Grand Prix ahead, Dublin wants to put himself in the best possible position. He lies P3 on the second row. He can only improve to second on the road. He cannot displace Technic Speedy, who is finding yet more speed on this lap. This is a virtuous attempt here from Technic Speedy. The AlphaTauri dazzles on US soil and extends his pole margin to over a third of a second. And it's left to one more Red Bull to possibly dethrone him all there, but Big Mama Frank getting a little bit of understeer. And it's going to cost him. He's down on his provisional best time. It's Shry crossing the line. He lies P4. Duncan, 5th at the moment. Looks like he's going to be completing a lap though. But Technic Speedy still on pole. Dublin isn't going to be able to steal it from him. And we have a Mercedes off the road. It seems like Rivas. But Big Mama Frank down this long back straight. Flirting with speeds of 200 miles per hour, braking to about 70 miles per hour, going into turn 12, possibly even less than that. And this attempt may not just bring what Big Mama thirsts into the final sector. He's down, noticeably down on his best attempt so far, as the rear drifts away from him. His chance, his hope for pole position drifts with it. It's Schrei, Duncan, Fitz-Dickwell, Cushy, Chonk, Dravespor, all completing their laps, and Big Mama Frank into the pits. There was a hint that he could, on this day of days, take pole, but it's going to be, unfortunately for Big Mama Frank, forgotten. He does have a sprint and a Grand Prix ahead, but a chance of pole here at Coaster is not going to be realised. And the only driver that hasn't, met the checkered flag yet is CVTX Mask, but he has an attempt that will not be certified. So then, Technic Speedy, by 0.3 of a second, a lap, with an abundance of amazement and aggression. He strives to pole position with a sprint and a Grand Prix ahead, and one that the AlphaTauri seeks to conquer. A fabulous attempt from him. A massive thanks there to Push, who very much flattering me, I must say, but just reading his comment there. But, well, what a thrilling session that was. Technic Speedy on pole ahead of Dublin. Over 0.3 of a second was the margin come the conclusion of qualifying. And it is the AlphaTauri that defeats the senior team and makes the comfort of pole position his own. The action is really starting to be gripped here, and make sure you do not go anywhere. The opening chapters have been written, and there are many more to explore. The clock will tick down, the nerves will enlarge, and the action will really, really reach boiling points for the final time in Zoom Racing League X Division. In the second season of this X Division in this racing league, we have one more event to be enjoyed, but it's a double whammy, a sprint and a Grand Prix to be enjoyed. And make sure you do not go anywhere, because in a mere few moments, the sprint will be underway. So, it seems like we are just a few seconds away from getting this formation lap underway for the sprint. And thank you, Crofty.
As all the cars take their positions on the grid, the final preparations have been made, and all that's left is for the drivers to deliver on track.
Many thanks there to Crofty as the formation lap draws to a close then, but the drivers turn their attention to the lights ahead of 10 laps where we will be sprinting in the States. It's a mammoth start there from Dublin, who displaces Technic Speedy immediately, and there's been a crash towards the back. Aaron getting involved, but Itchry taking the fight to Technic Speedy going into the apex of turn 1. The AlphaTauri of Fitz-Dickwell spun around. Mega action on the opening lap of this race. Itchry running ahead of Technic Speedy side by side. The Alpine progresses ahead with sheer aggression, and you can see their chunk spinning around as well. Unbelievable action taking place at the start of this race. Dublin seemingly disconnecting from the session. He drops down into 4th place, so Itchry leads the race ahead of Technic Speedy. Big Mama Frank running in 3rd for Red Bull ahead of his teammate. And then we have the Shelmscray in 5th, but Big Mama Frank ahead of Dublin. Technic Speedy 2nd with a time penalty to his name already. Let's see if any moves can be made down this long back straight. CBTX Mask taking to the fight to the Ferrari of Leo Kreitis side by side on towards turn 12. Who is going to break later? CBTX Mask noticeably ahead, but can the Ferrari have a response? No, he can't. So it is CBTX Mask ahead of the Ferrari of Leo Kreitis. Fitz-Dickwell running in 11th place ahead of Duncan. But out in front, the Alpine of Itchry taking advantage of the opening mayhem of this race. And he'll head on to the 20th and final corner of this track in the lead. But Technic Speedy really closing him down. On the 2nd lap of this sprint, the AlphaTauri closing so much and enough to bash down the inside of turn 1. A little bit of contact between the pair, but the AlphaTauri seizes the initiative and now has the Alpine in his mirrors. So the Alpine demoted to 2nd. Technic Speedy seizing the lead of this sprint as Dublin down into P11 now. He's pulled off to the side of the road, it seems. And a sprint that promised so much is going to yield so very little for the Red Bull. The champion in name, the champion by nature, down in P13. And this has been a horrid tale of try and disappointment so far. But we now ride on board with Traversport, who is asking Cushy a few questions in his quest for 6th place. The Aston Martin within the slipstream of Cushy. Is he in a place to make an impression going into turn 12? I don't think so. But it's on lap 2 of 10 here. Obviously DRS not enabled just yet. That will come around on the 3rd tour of this sprint. And will be able to be activated in just a few moments' time. Technic Speedy in the lead of this race. Remember though, he has a time penalty to be served. Itchry in 2nd. Big Mama Frank in 3rd. And we complete 1/5 of this sprint distance with the AlphaTauri, who started from pole, back in the lead, publishing the fastest lap of the race, a 1:36.1, and he's edging towards a 2nd advantage over Itchry. Any other moves being made into turn 1? It doesn't seem so. And it is as you were between all runners so far. Let's have a look at the big winners from the start. Logan up 7 places. Itchry up 2. CBTX Mask up 6. And you can see the big losers, and where else to look other than Dublin, who started from the front row, took the lead, but has dropped back, it seems like, due to internet connection problems. Aaron has pitted. He's pitted to the hard, which is rather perplexing, perhaps indicating that he is going to save his liking some soft compound tyres for the Grand Prix itself. But DRS enabled. That should aid some overtaking opportunities, particularly down this long straight into turn 12. But no moves being made just yet. You can see CBTX Mask seeing the rear wing of the Aston Martin ahead growing ever larger. And he wants to dispense of Traversport's dangling advantage over the McLaren. Oh, and that's a spin for Logan in the Haas. On towards turn 19, the Haas drifting off the racetrack into the Armco wall. And he is demoted out of the top 10 He's going to look to come into the pits. He's in fact crossed the track. And he's going to take a wide berth into the pit lane. And this, not only is it unconventional for the Haas, this is disastrous on the team's home turf. It's a sickly feeling for the Haas outfit. Following the progress then of Draberspor once more with Cushy right ahead. He will have DRS, will the Aston Martin, down the long back straight. Will he be able to make a move, putting down the power? You can see Cushy racing away from him, but the Aston Martin fancying his chances of at least closing back upon the Ferrari. But look at CVTX Mars, so much speed down the long back straight. He looks to dispense of Draberspor down the inside. The McLaren plants his McLaren past and plots the path to 6th place. The exit off of turn 11 was utterly handsome, and his reward was a chance to progress past the Aston Martin. It's Try out of 2nd place, the Alpine dropping down the order. And it seems like the tyres are starting to get away from the drivers. It plagued Logan a lap ago. It's plagued the Alpine now. He's just ahead of Leo Crichton with Fitz Dickwell right behind. It seems like he may have made a little bit of contact with the Ferrari, but down the start-finish straight, Draberspor looking to reclaim a place ahead of CVTX Mask. It's now a battle for 5th place. Through the apex of turn 1, he's not able to battle past. But the landscape of this race shifting. The plots of many drivers' events shifting even more. And for the likes of Itchry, for the likes of Dublin, for the likes of Logan, their potential in this sprint is not going to be recognised. Itchry though, at least for him, he's looking onwards and upwards and trying to penetrate past the Aston Martin ahead, but Draberspor closing in on towards turn 12. He looks to the outside, the McLaren defends on the exit. The Aston Martin puts down the power, and he really is closing in on the McLaren, but he's forced out wide. He may have to concede a place to Itchry then. The Alpine running ahead provisionally, but they're going to run side by side with the green machine just about fending off Itchry. And it is now forging into a 3-way battle, a 4-way battle, a 5-way battle, perhaps even a 6-way battle for 5th place on the road. This sprint gets more gripping and gripping every lap that is completed. And we start lap 6 then, with CVTX Mask ahead of Draberspor. You can see Itchry trying to launch an attack on the Aston Martin into turn 1 with Fitz Dickwell losing a place to Leo Crichton. We continue our attention with the Alpine through the end of the first sector on towards turns 9 and 10. Seems like the McLaren ahead isn't really streaking away from the Aston Martin, and it's where he's going to be able to do the damage is CVTX Mask through these high downforce corners where the driver can really make the difference, because with the use of DRS, the Aston Martin can close back towards the McLaren, and the Aston Martin actually using DRS to defend from Itchry and under the brakes. Oh, you can see Itchry getting oh so close to Draberspor, but no damage being done. But Draberspor perhaps going offline. Itchry plotting a path perhaps to 6th place, but nothing is coming of it yet. Leo Crichton spotting an opportunity, and they came fractionally close to Itchry and Leo Crichton to cataclysmic contact. That could have been disastrous, and it's even more disastrous then for Fitz Dickwell. The AlphaTauri spinning out through turn 17, dropping down into 11th place. And as his teammate leads out in front, Fitz-Dickwell down into 11th, a mistake costing him so very much. Seems like now Technic Speedy with another time penalty amounting to 8 seconds. So Big Mama Frank could be on for sprint supremacy here in the US. With just 3.5 laps to go, the Red Bull sniffs an opportunity. It looked like he could be poised for pole just about 10 minutes ago. Now he seems in the groove to take maximum points in this sprint event. But of course we have a few more laps to be contested. But CVTX Mask eking out a gap to Draperspor. That makes the Aston Martin vulnerable to Itchry, who does have DRS, but the Alpine not closing in enough. On towards turn 12, the Aston Martin locking up. Not really running out wide, not really missing the apex, so he can breathe a huge sigh of relief, but he still has Leo Kreitis very much on his tail. Technic Speedy starts lap 8 of 10 here at this US Grand Prix sprint. Big Mama Frank looking set. Start from the front for the US Grand Prix proper. But down the start-finish straight, we are still very much focused on the battle for, well, 6th place, 7th place and 8th place. Draperspor ahead of Itchry. Leo Kreitis running behind them both, with Duncan behind that trio. Logan now earning himself a time penalty. He dropped out of the top 10 earlier on. He now has a time penalty to his name. Having said that, it does look like he's closing in on Aero down the start-finish straight, and Duncan then passing Leo Kreitis, the Ferrari, perhaps making a mistake, and the Alpine makes him pay. Draperspor and Itchry, could this be the closest these two get? Itchry about half a second behind the Aston Martin, and with DRS, he really is closing in on the Aston Martin. On towards turn 12, he thought of making a move to the inside, but he wasn't close enough. And the sickening sight of that Aston Martin rear wing prolongs to the final sector. Are we so close? So close is the Alpine. He is emboldening confidence, grip, as Cushy now spinning. Cushy losing places. The Ferrari losing the car and demotes himself down into P8 with his teammate now right behind. So into the final 2 laps of this sprint, and all mayhem is breaking loose. Here comes Itchry down the start-finish straight into turn 1. He finds his breaking point, he finds 5th place, and he eliminates the sight of Draperspor ahead of him. Duncan progressing past Cushy into turn 2. The Alpine around the outside makes the move stick. Flavour bursting on US soil. Even in the sprint, we are being treated to a stellar race. This is indicative of everything that is Zoom Racing League. This is everything that we expect of the US Grand Prix. And this is a taster for what magnitude of mayhem will erupt in the Grand Prix proper. Lap 9 of 10, the penultimate lap of this sprint. Rivas earning himself yet another time penalty, his second in 2 laps. Here comes Cushy around the outside of turn 12, late on the brakes. It looks like he progresses past the Alpine. How does Duncan respond? He looks to the outside, he can't make the move, and that was utterly sublime, stellar, sensational. The Ferrari on Racecraft absolutely pinpoints, and he partly revives the cost of his mistake just 1 lap ago. A picture book overtake there from the Ferrari, who gallops past the Alpine. And now it is the task of Chonk to progress past the Alpine on the final lap of this US Grand Prix sprint. So many overtakes, so much action. It has been a treat from the very get-go as Aero. Definitely not inviting himself to treat as he spins out and drops down into 14th place. Having said that, Logan seems like he has spun as well, as we have Rivas closing in on Aaron. But remember, the Mercedes does have a time penalty to be served. It's Try now 1 second ahead of Traversport. The Aston Martin may not be able to respond. Leo Kreitis, though, so close to Chunk. The Alfa Romeo may have DRS, but he should have come under fierce pressure from the Ferrari. But the rear end getting away from Leo Kreitis on exit. That's going to cost him. Chunk into turn 12. He spots an opportunity down the inside. It's a bliss of bravado from the Alfa Romeo. Perfection on the brakes. He battles past the Alpine with aggression. Sheer aggression. But can the Alpine respond? No, he can't. And out of the final corner, Technic Speedy does cross the line first, but it is sprint supremacy in the States for Big Mama Frank. He will start the US Grand Prix from the very front, with Technic Speedy alongside him on the front row. The Schemsprey third, CVTX Mask fourth. And it doesn't seem like there'll be any overtakes being made to the line. Chunk ahead of Duncan, ahead of Leo Kreitis. We have Logan passing Aero, the Haas, now up into 13th place. But a time penalty will reverse and undo that overtake. Battles from the start, battles to the very end of this US sprint. 10 laps of trembling action, and there are 28 more for the US Grand Prix itself. Logan, the rear end's getting away from him. Those soft compound tyres have passed their sell-by date, and he's been given a tap by Aero as Aaron passes the pair of them up into P13. A non-plussing moment for the Alfa Romeo. Aaron, 13th in the 8th. Wow. A hectic end to this US Grand Prix sprint, with Big Mama Frank winning out ahead of Technic Speedy, the Schemsprey third, and CVTX Mask fourth ahead of Traversport Cushy. It's Ryan Chonk. But my oh my, that does not tell the full story. This is a engrossing, riveting novel that is going to be written, and the full compliments stem from its origins. The origins being qualifying, the origins being the sprints, and its true outcome will be realised in 28 laps time. So, the clock ticks down to another start, another grid start, as the drivers on the grid just assess their strategies, refine their setups for the final time of this Zoom Racing League X Division season. We have a race to be contested, and Crofty interrupts me once more.
The atmosphere is electric, and the fans have come out in their thousands for today's race. almost ready to start the race as the cars take their positions on the grid, with the drivers and teams making their final preparations.
Right, so I assume, yeah. So Crofty just talking us through the formation. That many thanks to him. But the race outcomes for the final time this season land in the hands of our grid. The X Division of Zoom Racing League, a grid that has delivered thrilling drama throughout this season, will deliver drama for one final time. It's the steep climb towards Turn 1. It's a 28-lap race ahead of us. And for the final time in Zoom Racing League X Division in Season 2, we will be racing. 5 red lights on ahead of the drivers, and we are racing on US soil. Who gets the best start? Doesn't seem like Technic Speedy's able to pose a threat to Big Mama Frank. The Schumskrate really troubling the AlphaTauri going into Turn 1, but Itchrai trying to get in the battle actually makes contact. Itchrai dropping well outside the top 10. It's been the start from hell for the Alpine. Chonk behind the Schumskrate, but it is Big Mama Frank leading out in front. The Ferrari there of Leo Kreitis, it seems like he was having a look at stealing a place off Duncan, but it is Big Mama Frank still leading this race, but Technic Speedy looking to close in right from the get-go. On towards turn 10 and 11, the AlphaTauri trying to spot an opportunity. Big Mama Frank, though, on the hard compound tyres, just not have the tyres up to temperature. And there's Aaron bashing past Leo Kreitis. Them two are going side by side. But Aaron progresses ahead. But Technic Speedy closing in on Big Mama Frank. The two race leaders running side by side on the first tour of this US Grand Prix. And the AlphaTauri seizes the advantage. The Red Bull now in his mirrors. And the AlphaTauri establishes control on the first lap of this race. The hard compound tyres not yielding the grip, not yielding the temperature that Big Mama Frank would have liked on this first lap. That is very much to be expected, but track position that came with pole is extinguished by the end of the first tour of this US Grand Prix. So Technic Speedy leading this race. All Duncan getting out wide through the final corner. Aaron will seize the opportunity to battle past him. Leo Kreitis passing Logan. The Ferrari and the Haas running side by side going into turn 1. The Ferrari to the inside. He runs ahead of the Haas. And Logan having to concede in that particular battle. But Technic Speedy racing away from Big Mama Frank. The Schumskrate also on the medium compound tyres. Now closing in on Big Mama Frank. It's critical for the Red Bull to stay in the hunt in the opening exchanges of this race. As long as he can stay within a reasonable deficit to Technic Speedy, the speed he could have come to the conclusion of this race could be startling. What else is startling? Well, Dublin started up into 5th place already, and he's closing in on Schonk. The Alfa Romeo on the defensive. It's the race towards turn 12. The Red Bull looks like he's going to permit himself the inside line, and with it 4th place, but he locks up the Alfa Romeo looking to fight back. They're running side by side. This is a truly sensational defence from Chonk, but the Red Bull looking to maximise and move around the outside. He's not able to do it. The Alfa Romeo impervious to the threat that Dublin posed to him, and that was a defence. A stellar defence that carried the weight of a champion on his shoulders. Dublin with a sensational start, but he still runs behind the Alfa Romeo. And Aaron closing in on Dragosport, the Aston Martin struggling with front-end grip through the final corner, and it looks like Aaron wants to make him pay going into turn 1. He's not going to be able to make a move, or is he? Because Dragosport running out wide through the exit of turn 1. They're going to run side by side. Who is going to emerge ahead? It's going to be Dragosport with Duncan now closing in on the Alfa Romeo. Thrilling battles being had at the start of this race. In that particular battle, it was Dragosport that seized the advantage. And Aaron now has to look behind him with Duncan closing in. But on lap 3 of this US Grand Prix, DRS is now enabled, and Logan once more spinning in this event. Spun a couple of times in the sprints. It doesn't get much better for him in the Grand Prix itself, but Dublin now with the RSV right on board with him on towards turn 12. Once more, he permits himself the inside line. Once more, going into the apex of turn 12, he battles ahead of the Alfa Romeo. But you guessed it, the Alfa Romeo fighting back. They're running side by side, perilously close to contact. This is a sensational defence from Chong. He still runs in fourth place, but as they put down the power off of the exit of turn 15, can the Red Bull somehow make a move? No, he can't, and he loses the rear, and he hits the wall. The heat of battle has got to the champion, and the champion falls on US soil. A hectic, truly hectic start to this US Grand Prix. Lands another layer of pure thrill. Going into turn 1, Leo Kreitas spotting an opportunity to make a move. He currently runs ahead now, Fitzdick, but they're going to run side by side through turn 2. They do make contact. The Alpha Tauri now running behind the Ferrari. Duncan spotting an opportunity as well. So Duncan obviously has had a problem in the past lap because he was battling away, I think, with Cushy. He's now outside the top 10, so something has gone rather astray for the Alpine. Lap 4 of 28. The action will continue to be delivered. Let's see Drabaspor not able to close in on Chonk. Cushy trying to close in on Dublin. Itchstride trying to close in on Cushy. And we have the McLaren of CVTX Mars battling away with Duncan. They're going to run wheel to wheel off of the exit of turn 12 with the Alpine ahead, but with the McLaren responding. And we've noticed in the first few laps of this race, you can have battles off of the exit of turn 12 that could last all the way to turn 15. It may be punishing, it may cost you time, but track position may just be pivotal. And they have been absolutely mega wheel-to-wheel battles so far. And let's hope it perpetuates and pervades through this Grand Prix. Logan still ahead of CVTX Mask. Rivas having a spin through turn 17. He will drop even further behind his competitors. On board with it, Shry, and look how close he gets there to Cushy. In the battle for 8th place, the Ferrari holds the upper hand, but the Alpine wants to undo that particular let's say status, let's call it that. But Duncan still behind Fitzdick. The battle for 11th and 12th, and we have Aaron ahead of Dublin, and Dublin wanting to fight back after his spin just a few laps ago after brushing the barriers. This race revive starts right here, right now. He struggled to get past Chonk, but this Alfa Romeo doesn't prove as labouring, but you can see the Alfa Romeo trying to make a move around the outside. It's not going to work. But we also have it Shry trying to take a place on Cushy. They get perilously close to contact as well. He has to stand on the brakes going into turn 15. It is picking your moment and seizing it for these drivers. An exit of struggle can cost you. An exit of majesty can reward you, as Logan and CVTX Mask, it seems like they made contact just a few moments ago. Itchstride now passing Cushy. And we also have and Itchstride through the final corner, struggling and dropping down into 11th place. And then we have Fitzdick, pressurising Leo Kreitas. They run side by side into turn 1. The Alpha Tauri around the outside, and the two Ferraris make contact. The prancing horse is wounded. Leo Kreitas touching, I think, with Itchstride, touching with Cushy, and losing a handful of positions. Schry pressurising Cushy once more. The Ferrari still ahead for Trabzonspor, trying to pressurise Chonk in the battle for 4th place going into turn 12. The Aston Martin trying to look around the outside. That comes to no avail. But it's Schry now making a move on Cushy. The Ferrari running ahead of the Alpine, and they get so close. This has been the case so far in this race, but the Alpine powering around the outside and powering past the Ferrari. A majestic overtake from Rich Schreier, the Alpine, showing the richness of his racecraft, and eliminates the sight of the Ferrari ahead of him. So Cushy demoted into P8. Logan may just be demoted down a few more positions. He once more spins out. But Chonk ahead of Trabzonspor, ahead of Dublin, who really has closed on these two. Then we have Cushy, Fitz-Dickwell, the AlphaTauri. Sees his teammate leading. He still runs inside the top 10, but he wants to better his results so far. And Cushy trying to make an impression on Trabzonspor. Seems like there are yellow flags out, and that's because Fitz-Dickwell has had a brush with the barriers. The AlphaTauri losing his front wing, dropping horridly in this race. And that's a hammer blow, a real hammer blow for the AlphaTauri. Trabzonspor trying to make a move on Chonk. Dublin waiting in the wings. It's Schry and Aaron igniting in battle. So Aaron provisionally ahead, but it's Schry. Does he have a response? I don't think so. The Alfa Romeo is struggling on exit. This is a adroit racecraft here from the Alpine. Can he spot a move around the outside of turn 15? No. The Alfa Romeo placing it on the apex and continues to run ahead of the Alpine. This is proving a frustrating task for It's Schry. We start then lap 8 of 28. Oh, what an exit. What an exit from Dublin. He maximises it to power past the Aston Martin into turn 1. 5th place lies in the hands of Dublin. So Fitz-Dickwell pitting now, replacing his front wing, replacing the tyres he started this race from. And he will hope that his fortunes can reverse in the closing 20 laps of this season. Rivas spinning once more and actually retiring from this race. So Rivas becomes our first retirement from this US Grand Prix. And a real shame there for the Mercedes, ending his season on a real low note. But Chonk once more on the defensive from Dublin. It was a battle that got the better of Dublin earlier on in this Grand Prix. Dublin, though, wants to rewrite those lines of this battle and wants to permanently place his supremacy beyond the presence of Chonk. Through turn 16, 17 and 18, it seems like these Haas compound tyres are really starting to not only show their durability, but after the opening phases of this race to show their speed. Big Mama Frank closing to just over 1.5 seconds. It was over 2. Having said that, Technic Speedy looks to enlarge that gap. But these mediums may just start to struggle with Dublin, possibly chancing a move around the outside of turn 1. Pins the throttle down, edges, nudges ever closer to the Alfa Romeo. They're going to battle on towards the imitation of the Beckett section. And the Alfa Romeo is struggling, but can Dublin spot an opportunity? For the moment, no. This Alfa Romeo is proving a barrier to Dublin's pursuit of supremacy here in the US. And the rear end getting away from Dublin perhaps. Or was that just a glitch? I think it may have been the latter. So fans of Dublin can breathe a sigh of relief of relief. And now they may be grinning because the sight of that Alfa Romeo rear wing gets larger and larger and larger, and Dublin towards turn 12, granting himself the inside line. The Alfa Romeo again trying to defend. A never say die attitude from the Alfa Romeo is coming to life here in the US, but Dublin has the legs on him. Or does he? Because back down the inside, Chonk may be making a move, and contact between the pair. They're going to battle on towards turns 16, 17 and 18 with the Red Bull just about ahead. He wants to show him the door, but the Alfa Romeo into turn 19 looks to take the inside line, but he can't take fourth place. Back away from Dublin, and their battle may just continue on to lap 10 now of 28th in this US Grand Prix, with DRS deploying battery down the start finish straight. The Alfa Romeo possibly to the outside of turn 1, trying to make the move, but he's going to cut underneath the champion. They're going to run side by side once more, but this time it is the Red Bull placed ahead. This time it is the champion that can race away. It's proved a long and laboured battle, one to Dublin's distaste, but it is one that he eventually prevails in, and this is one that at least he can render a memory. Having said that, a DRS zone does loom for the pair of them, so could Chonk just somehow, some way, battle past? I do reckon he used a lot of battery down the start-finish straight to take the fight to Dublin, to reclaim the place. In fact, he could make a move down this long back straight on towards turn 12. The Alfa Romeo emerging ahead. Dublin, he can't fight back. Chonk having the measure of our champion once more, but running in rather deep into turn 13. Dublin is hot on his heels once more, but into turn 15. Can he make a move? No, he can't. This is costing the Red Bull noticeably, conspicuously and tellingly. He just cannot race away from the Alfa. He will look to reclaim the bragging rights ahead of the Alfa Romeo down the start-finish straight, and you can see Chonk trying to get out of his slipstream, weaving this way, weaving that way, and Dublin isn't close enough to make a move. So as they launch uphill towards turn 1, Chonk still ahead. What a battle, what a thrilling battle this is, but Dublin is asking yet more questions of the Alfa Romeo. But the Alfa Romeo having the answers. Meanwhile, out in front, Technic Speedy leading by 1.5 seconds after starting the sprint from pole, but after losing it through multiple time penalties. He has the lead in the Grand Prix, but can he keep it? Can he hold on to it? We will see. Dublin once more reigniting in battle with Chonk. A battle that stretches as far as this race's origins, really, and one that persists and pervades in its glamour still to this very lap. Fitzdickwell earning himself a time penalty for track limits violations. It's not been the race he would have wanted, that's for sure. And it's not been the events that Dublin would have wanted. A spin through this very corner earlier on in this race has cost him this battle, the longevity of this battle costing him, and a time penalty to go with it. Exceeding track limits for on 3 separate occasions lands the Red Bull a time penalty, which will either be served at his pit stop or at the conclusion of this Grand Prix, but at the exit of turn 1. He closes in on the Alfa Romeo of Chonk, showing the grippiness of his hard compound tyres, considered to the rather second-hand medium compound tyres. So then, if you have joined us for this US Grand Prix, thank you so very much for your company. What a thrilling instalment, yet another thrilling instalment of Zoom Racing League it has been so far. Technic Speedy leads out in front by over 2 seconds now. He is stretching his legs on Big Mama Frank, the Red Bull running second. His teammate has had a troublesome race, but it looks like he may just land himself 4th place on the road going into turn 12. Chonk again, yet again, fighting back. They will run side by side with the Alfa Romeo clinging on to the inside line, trying to fight back. The fans revelling in the majesty of this battle, but it is Dublin's moment to be seized. Grippingly with both hands, he runs ahead of the Alfa Romeo. Could this be, at last, at long, long last, a battle, a chapter closed? The Red Bull will certainly hope so, and the champion will look to drift on into the distance beyond the hopes of Chonk. But back down the start-finish straight, you can see the straight line speed of that Alfa Romeo as he closes back in on the Red Bull. But Drabaspor and Itshrai also very much in this battle. You feel like if Dublin can race away Chonk, will come under fierce pressure from the Aston Martin and the Alpine, and you can see Dublin eking out a gap of nearly a second through the first sector, and Drabaspor is really, really close to the Alfa Romeo now through turns 9 and 10 and towards turn 11. He fancies a move, and it's Itshrai in the Alpine. He may have tapped the wall, but the damage has been done. Sensing an opportunity amid a battle for 6th place perhaps, that opportunity has come, and it's unfortunately gone for Itshrai. We are nearing half distance of this US Grand Prix, and Technic Speedy from the race lead pitting to get rid of his medium compound tyres, and this is a phase of strategy in this US Grand Prix which is starting to take hold. Varying strategies between the front two, polar opposite strategies between the front two. So Big Mama Frank takes over the lead. He will pit most probably for the medium compound tyres come the end of this race, and he will look to close in on Technic Speedy, who now runs on the hards and in fact runs behind Dublin. So it's a Red Bull 1-2 in this race, as Technic Speedy hopes to get his tyres up to temperature. He will look just to end that moment of history. The CVTX mask also pitting. Aaron on the medium compound tyres. So the Alfa Romeo, having triggered the undercut in a way, is close to CVTX mask. Having said that, Aaron isn't ahead of the McLaren runner, so it hasn't really worked for him at all. Could this work for Drabaspor going into turn 12? He's close to Chonk. He almost taps Chonk, and he has to lock up going into the apex of turn 12 on exit. Can he make a move? Can he make an impression? He cannot. So the Alfa Romeo is still running ahead. Sorry, I was meant to be talking about, I thought I was talking about Chonk. I meant Aaron, sorry. So Aaron behind CVTX mask, Drabaspor behind Chonk. And we ride on board then with the Aston Martin, going into the 20th and final turn of this Circuit of America's track, a track which was unveiled to Formula One in 2012, a race that was won by Lewis Hamilton, and a race that he has gone on to win multiple times. But in the hands of our Zoom Racing Meet drivers, it seems like this will be a battle for the win between Big Mama Frank and Technic Speedy, but the AlphaTauri will want to get a move on and battle past Dublin. We ride on board with Drabaspor, who runs so close to the Alfa Romeo. Chonk is really losing tyre life. Drabaspor grows large in his mirrors. They've both been on these tyres since the very start of this race, so tyre wear may be a problem, certainly more on the Alfa Romeo. Let's see. Off the exits of turn 11 onto the long back straight, Trabzonspor with a handsome exit and a healthy chance of taking the place off of the Alfa Romeo into turn 12. It just is not a contest. So then, Trabzonspor displacing Chonk and promoting himself up into the top 4 now. This could be critical though in this race. Big Mama Frank, he leads his teammate second ahead of Technic Speedy. Is Dublin going to play the team game perhaps? We will certainly have to see. However long Dublin stays out on track, which will not be for very long because he comes into the pit. So a team role perhaps of holding up Technic Speedy is not going to sustain, and Dublin into the pits. Now we know he brushed the wall earlier on. He hasn't damaged it to the extent that he needs to change his front wing, so he pits to the medium compound tyres and just released onto the track. He should come out easily in 4th place. And he has, it seems like, Trabzonspor behind him on the road. Now, of course, the circuit of the Americas is, well, at times inherently bumpy. We saw it in 2019 and we saw it in 2012, really. When the track is not resurfaced, it really is noticed by the drivers who do struggle, perhaps bouncing up and down, and it can damage the suspensions. That's one of the reasons why Sebastian Vettel's suspension failed so dramatically in 2019 through the exit of this particular corner. Yes, the curbs are noticeable, and yes, they are punishing around this track, but the bumpy nature of the circuit of the Americans can seriously hinder the state of these suspensions. It won't be particularly noted in this racing division because of the nature of this Formula 1 2022 game. The characteristics of this track can really punish the car, and CVTX Mask looking to punish Trabzonspor going into turn 12. He leaps ahead of him. The Aston Martin failing to respond as he just does not have the temperature in his medium compound tyres on this outlap, with Aaron ahead of Cushy, but Aaron running in deep. Cushy battling past, but he now has it trying to make a challenge on him. Aaron and Itch now running side by side on towards turns 16, 17 and 18. Logan now retires from this race, bringing our runners down to 14. But we have all the Alfa Romeo running out wide. Itch into the final corner, almost collided with him. Thankfully they did not, but Big Mama Frank pitting initially from the lead. He re-emerges in this race in 2nd place. So it is left to him after starting this race, this Grand Prix from the front. He lost it on the opening lap of this race at the end of this long back straight. But Technic Speedy on the harder compound tyres, on older tyres as well. This is where the Red Bull really starts to embolden his charge. CVTX Masks running ahead of Trabzonspor. Will that be the case for much longer? It seems like at least going into turn 12. It is as you were. And the McLaren losing the rear end. Trabzonspor on younger, softer tyres. Looks to exude confidence and steal the upper hand from the McLaren's grasp. And Big Mama Frank already really closing in on Technic Speed with a gap less than 2.5 seconds. And the Red Bull, his chance of race victory speaking before our very eyes. And all you can see, yes, CVTX Mask struggling off of exit. Trabzonspor did not need that invitation. And CVTX Mask will despair at that little mistake. Yes, he is in a less favourable position in this battle anyway on hard compound tyres, but Trabzonspor did not need it to be, let's not say that easy, but that comfortable to make a move. Here is Cushy then, closing in on Chonk. Another thing about the Circuit of the Americas is that although it won't be realised necessarily in a 50% race, but certainly in a 100% 56-lap Grand Prix, tyre wear is noticeable, and this is one of the more interesting races on strategy. It is so very close between a one-stop and a two-stop. In fact, we'll talk about that in a moment, because Cushy trying to make an impression on Chonk, emerging to the end of the back straight to the outside of turn 12. Chonk has had so many battles into that corner throughout this race, and he has the measure of the Ferrari. Right, very much in the battle. Is he going to fancy a move past Cushy? Doesn't seem so. Going into turns 16, 17 and 18, he will remain in the wheel tracks of the Ferrari. But I was talking about how this race typically is a very close call between a one-stop and a two-stop. We saw that in 2019, the top two by the end of that Grand Prix, Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton, separated by about 4 seconds in the end. Bottas winning the race on a two-stop, Hamilton igniting a charge on a one-stop. But a one-stop is the preferred strategy in this race, in only a 50% race. But Cushy taking the charge to Chonk around the outside of turn 1. He closes in once more on the Alfa Romeo on towards the S's section, but with the Alfa still ahead. His brilliant defence, Chonk's brilliant defence, is noticeable once more, and Cushy and it try colliding. The Alpine tapping the rear of the Ferrari. The pair of them sent into a spin, and Chonk is released from the avalanche of pressure that the pair of Cushy and it try threw at them. Unwanted welcome in these two Grand Prix, or in the Grand Prix for these two, and Chonk can just breathe, as he obviously still needs to register strong laps, but he is released from the pressure that the two faster drivers behind him posed. But we cannot diminish the effort that the Alfa Romeo has done in this race. His racecraft has been truly sublime. Something else that has been sublime has been Big Mama Frank's pace on these medium compound tyres. He does have a time penalty, it must be said. A time penalty of, I believe, 3 seconds to be served at the end of this race due to track limit violations. Yes, it is 3 seconds, but he's within a second. He is within a second, and the glowing presence of the Red Bull ignites. It's Dublin who also has a time penalty and who also wants to make a move on the driver ahead. Red Bull, who have dominated this Constructors' Championship, partly due thanks to the efforts of Dublin, but also the job of Weil and the job of Big Mama Frank. It has been a successful, serenely successful season for the Milton Keynes outfit, a team that were once wrapped in the colours of tartan Scottish heritage under the name of Stuart Grand Prix. But in the hands of their Red Bull drivers, they look to succeed on US soil, and with an exit like that, Big Mama Frank's success may evade you. He drops the car through the exit of the final corner, drops to behind 1 second of Technic Speedy's advantage. That could be a pivotal moment with the Red Bull's time penalty. That could just reward Technic Speedy with a lot healthier chance of winning this race. Dublin, though, currently running in 4th place. He looks to turn that into 3rd through this S's section. The Aramco adorned on the rear of that Aston Martin. It's not a sight Dublin inherently fancies. Having said that, he does struggle through turns 9 and 10, heading on towards turn 11. Let's see what's his exit like. Oh, it's a good one. It's a solid, crisp exit there for Dublin. With a time penalty to be served, he needs the dispatch of the Aston Martin first But with DRS in action, with a position to find, Dublin to the outside of turn 12. He can't make the move. It seems like you'll have to be on the inside to make a move. But going into turn 13 now, to the inside once more for Dublin, the champion, looking for a champion's move, and he's made it, it seems. But can the Aston Martin fight back? Indeed he can. They run side by side. But as they put down the power, the richness of grip on those Red Bull medium compound tyres is enough for Dublin to claim this battle by the scruff of the neck. The champion now running in the podium places after starting outside the top 10. This has been a recovery indicative of Dublin's expertise, and on lap 22 of 28, he runs in third behind his teammate and Technic Speedy. It may just be a lonely race from here for Dublin, but in the final laps of a prodigiously successful season, he will look to at least be at relative ease with a third place finish. Big Mama Frank still leading, but the gap is flirting around the half a second margin. Big Mama Frank wants this moment to be his. Technic Speedy wants an American dream to land before him. Who will emerge ahead? Who will take the final honours in this Zoom Race League X Division season, the second season of this Zoom of the X Division here in this fantastic racing establishment? And it has been a fantastic season-ending race so far. Technic Speedy leading, but the faster, quicker driver lies in second with an overtake to be made, a time penalty to be overcome. Is it enough to curtail his hopes? We will have to see. It's on lap 23 of 28. The Red Bull sniffs an opportunity. It's junior versus senior. It's the successful versus the underdog. Who reigns supreme? In the land of the free, we have been unrestrained from epic moments so far. This has truly been a majestic event to behold. The final race of this X Division season here in Zoom Racing League. And in this final race, could the pendulum start to swing before the presence of Big Mama Frank? It's the lead. He sees he's going into turn 12, but he's been hit from behind by Technic Speedy. A twist. A teasing, trembling twist on lap 23 of 28. Big Mama Frank thought this could be his race. Technic Speedy has thwarted that hope. Controversy. Sheer controversy on this final race. It seems like Technic Speedy may just be slowing down to allow Big Mama Frank to pass, which is sensible thinking there from the AlphaTauri, because it would mean that, well, for his hopes, that he would be able to avoid a time penalty, but irritation, exasperation, perhaps dejection come the conclusion of this race may be kicking in for Big Mama Frank. A moment of value, of enormous value in this Grand Prix. But Big Mama Frank does pass Technic Speed in the AlphaTauri as he allows the Red Bull pass, does actually earn himself a time penalty. So, that is critical, just critical in the outcome of this race. And Big Mama Frank then could just be sensing an opportunity that this may be his race. So in the final 5 laps of this race, this is, well, could be anyone's game. The top 2 separated by less than a second. Both have a 3-second time penalty to be served. Hope mounts. Challenge crystallises. But who can come out on top? So then, is he going to be far enough ahead, Big Mama Frank, to be free from any fight from Technic Speedy? Going into turn 12, it seems plausible. It seems like he's got a decent enough exit to remain ahead. Let's see, how close is the AlphaTauri? No, he's not close enough. He is not close enough. So in the remaining 3.5 laps of this race, so the final laps of this Zoom Racing League season. A race win still being contested, battles still being decided, one of them being the battle for 7th place. Chonk ahead of Leocritus down this long DRS straight. Leocritus, it looks like he was wanting to pose a threat to Chonk. Instead, Cushy looking to take the place from his teammate, and Cushy running ahead. So the 2 Ferraris swapping places on lap 26 of 28. And Chonk, who has been absolutely sublime in terms of his racecraft so far in this Grand Prix, will just have that task, that tricky task of keeping 2 prancing horses behind him. Having said that, both Ferraris do have time penalties to be served, so it may just come as a relief to Chonk that he is the favourite to come out on top in this battle. Cushy is close. Oh, he's so close. He's performing so much confidence in his car. He actually taps the rear of Chonk, and that allows Leocritus, that grants him the opportunity to pass his teammates once more. Cushy, is he going to defend going into turn 11? It seems possible, and it's Try looking for a move past Cushy, and he makes that move. Cushy down into P10 when just a few seconds ago he was hoping of making it into P7, but running side by side with it Try. It seems like he's going to emerge ahead, but it's Try almost colliding with Cushy. Cushy almost colliding with his teammates, and it's Try off of the exit of turn 12, battling back past Cushy around the outside. He makes the move, does the Alpine, and he makes 9th place his own, or does he? Because Cushy comes back at him. A never say die attitude has been demonstrated amongst every driver so far in this race. What a treat. What a treat this US Grand Prix has been. A season-ending race, delivering drama that we have become accustomed to in this X division since its very formation earlier in 2022. But the penultimate lap of this race is underway, and it is Big Mama Frank who holds the reins of the race lead and closes in. Seems like Big Mama Frank has done enough. He's over a second clear of Technic Speedy. So then, CVTX Mask and Draversport running side by side. Draversport just about ahead. This battle may just continue on to the final laps of this race. It's right now really closing in on Leo Kreitis down the long back straight going into turn 12. The Alpine braking to the outside. He's going to cut underneath the throw with a strong, healthy exit. He's not able to make the move, is the Alpine. So it will continue on this battle to the final lap of this season. So too will the battle for 5th and 6th. So going into turn 1, CVTX Mask is just not close enough. Having said that, Technic Speedy may just be within DRS of Big Mama Frank. This, the battle for the race leads through the final DRS straight on the final lap of the final race of this season. Big Mama Frank is closing in. Technic Speedy is closing in on him. It may be a battle decided in the final corners of this race. But the Red Bull is doing just about enough. Rounding the final couple of corners then, the Red Bull started this Grand Prix from the front. He lost the lead on the first lap. He has come under fierce pressure and is ignited in a fierce battle with Technic Speedy. But the AlphaTauri is going to fall prey to Big Mama Frank's charge. And Big Mama Frank, in the final race of this season, crosses the line and he soaks in celebratory sensation in the States. He wins the US Grand Prix. Cushing getting past it. He was so late on the brakes. Going into turn 12, he runs off the track. And it seems like he's going to be confined to 9th place in this race. But it's Shry ahead of him. Chonk running in 7th. Draversport will follow. Behind CVTX Mask, the McLaren 5th, the Aston Martin 6th. But through the final couple of corners, Chonk has been on the defensive so much in this race. Through the final corner then, it is going to be the Alfa Romeo who comes home for P7 ahead of it, Shry. Cushy comes home 9th, and it seems like Leo Kreitis may have had a problem. So Leo Kreitis eventually finishing this race in 10th place. But the day in the States, the American dream is Big Mama Frank's. It's an awe-inspiring drive in America for him. And it's his race victory to be cherished. What a race. What a race that was. We continue on. Continue on to what will come of the X Division of Zoom Racing League in coming seasons, but we also remember what has been an epic season of drama and in ways domination by Dublin. The book is closed upon season 2 of X Division here in Zoom Racing League, and what a thrilling tale it told. The final chapters were epic. The moments were evocative. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen, for another season of Zoom Racing League X Division. Big Mama Frank, your winner for the final time this season. He wins from Technic Speedy, Dublin 3rd, the Shimscray 4th, CVTX Mask 5th. Then rounded out the top 10, we have Draversport, Chonk, Itchry, Cushy, and Leo Kreitis. Then outside of the top 10, we have Aaron, Fitzstickwell, Aero, Duncan, and then your 2 non-finishers, Logan and Rivas. But whether you have watched briefly or watched noticeably upon this season of Zoom Racing League, we thank you for your attendance and your company, in fact. And we hope you can come back for when we do it all again next season. I have been Ben. This has been Zoom Racing League, and that has been Season 2 of Zoom Racing League's X Division. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, goodbye.